So my name is Allie Knox. I use the she, her pronouns, and I'm really happy and excited to introduce you all today to our event. So we are really excited to have you all here today. We're gonna share everything we can with you about City Year. We have some recruiters here that are gonna go through a presentation, then we're gonna be joined by a currently serving Corps member and a City Year alumni and myself for a panel. So if my recruiter friends would like to unmute yourselves and introduce yourselves, that'd be great. And then we can get going.
For sure. Hey everyone, my name is Julie Schneider. I'm a recruiter for City Year. I'm based in Milwaukee and I use the she, her series for pronouns. And I'm also a City Year Milwaukee alum and a recruiter. So thanks for being here today, and I'm going to pass it to Justin.
Hello, everybody. Very excited to be here. Very excited to see so many people on this call. First of all, that's super exciting. My name is Justin Connolly. I am a recruiter sitting in Detroit. I am a AmeriCorps alumni as well. And like I said, just excited to be here with you all today. I also use the he series of pronouns, and I am going to pass it to Brianna.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all for joining this call. My name is Brianna Chipman. I currently sit in Milwaukee. I also use the she, her, hers pronouns, and I am a recruiter based in Milwaukee, and I've been with the AmeriCorps for over 2 years now.
Yeah, Elle, if you would love to introduce yourself, not to put you on the spot, but
Nope, you're good. Sorry, I didn't hop in. But my name is Elle. I use the they, them, their series, and I am a team leader in Milwaukee right now, serving at our beautiful Vincent High School, which is on the far northeast side.
yes.
You got it, Julie.
And if we could have the lovely City Year Kansas City alum introduce themselves as well, and then we will get started with the presentation.
My mute. Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button. Hi, everyone. My name is Louis Scola. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm a City Year alumni from Kansas City in the year 17-18 school year. And I'm currently working at Guidehouse as a consulting firm, doing state and local government work after completing my master's in public policy. So I'm glad that I can give some voice to life after City Year for you all.
Sweet. And then Dylan is behind the scenes managing the chat and presenting. He's also a recruiter sitting in Detroit and served with City Year Dallas. Okay. Let's get started with the presentation. So this is just going to be a quick overview of kind of the background of City Year and our work. But just to move along to the next slide. So yeah, wanted to hit you with this statistic. So as a nation, we are still seeing nearly 800,000 students not completing high school every year. So that's about a student every 31 seconds. But because the crisis is concentrated, this means we know exactly which schools and students are struggling. The hope in all of this is we know exactly where to focus. And that's where City Year AmeriCorps members come in. We believe City Year is part of the solution. We partner with schools and communities challenged by persistent inequities in our education system to create learning environments where all students can build on their strengths and fully engage in their learning. So for the next slide, this is actually what our Corps members focus on, and we know which students are most at risk of dropping out due to a Johns Hopkins study found a set of predictive analytics called the early warning indicators that can identify whether a student is likely to graduate or drop out with a high degree of statistical reliability. And like I mentioned before, this is exactly what our City Year Corps members focus on: attendance, behavior, and course performance. But as early as 6th grade, any student who demonstrates poor attendance, disruptive behavior, or course failure in either math or English has less than a 25% chance of graduating from high school. However, if a student reaches the 10th grade on track and on time, they have a 75% chance of graduating. So that's why we try to reach these students early, specifically during their 3rd through 9th grade, and provide them with one-on-one support to help them overcome any challenges they face both in and out of school. And then City Year seeks to serve in high schools with low graduation rates and the elementary and middle schools that feed into those high schools to increase the number of students who are on track to graduate from high school and are prepared for the next step after school. So this is where you all come in, hopefully. You'll serve full-time on a team of diverse, passionate young adults in either an elementary, a middle, or a high school for an 11-month service year. Your team will be led by a team leader and an impact manager that will help you throughout the entire year and provide feedback and growth opportunities. And your time will primarily be spent in school, running intervention programs, after-school programs, and parent engagement activities. The days are really long, but they are worth it, and they do speak volumes. And later on in the panel, we'll hear a little bit more about what virtual service looks like due to the pandemic. But the City Year AmeriCorps member role really allows you to connect to your values and carry them throughout your service in the schools and the community which you're serving. So City Year AmeriCorps members forge positive, caring relationships with students and help create an environment where students can build on their strengths, take risks in their learning, and feel connected to their school. So a few examples of what Corps members do day in and day out are group and one-on-one tutoring, collaborating with teachers to identify students who need additional support, analyzing student data to help with decision making, and then also leading on different initiatives through a coordinator role. So something around the lines of social media, attendance, ELA, math, several different options for that. And then we also have our Corps members contribute to a positive school culture where students arrive at school excited and ready to learn. They help with building positive relationships with students, and then they also lead after-school programs. Do you mind hopping to the next one, Dylan? Thank you. And then a policy study associates or PSA study presented this study called the Analysis of the Impacts of City Year's Whole School, Whole Child Model on Partner Schools' Performance. And it showed that schools that partnered with City Year were up to 2 to 3 times more likely to improve on math and English assessments. So again, coming back to this idea that it is demanding, but really rewarding work to see the progression of your students that you will work with, as well as just the growth within yourself through a year of service. So now I am going to pass it over to Brianna to kind of talk about the benefits and how to apply to City Year.
Yes, thanks, Julie. So I'm going to be starting off with the benefits. So as a City Year AmeriCorps member, there are many financial benefits that you will receive during your 11 months of service and beyond your year of service. So to start, you will receive a bi-weekly living stipend. So this amount varies location to location, and it ranges from $630 to $930. something really important just to take into account that is cost of living. There are some cities that are much cheaper than other cities to live in. If you are moving over 50 miles away, we will supply you with a $500 relocation assistance grant. This is really just to help ease the stress of moving. This can be used with like gas money or U-Haul, down payment on an apartment. That's just your money to help you move. In the right-hand column here, we can see that we offer health insurance, paid time off, employee assistance program. Access to counseling service is very important and very important to City Year. We take your mental health to a really high priority. So if you need access to talk to a professional, we of course will help. We also offer loan forbearance during service. So if you currently have student loans, during your year of service, those are put on pause and you will not have to pay the interest that collects during that year. The Siegel Education Award, I always like to say this one for last just because it's my favorite. But after you complete the 11 months of service, you will receive approximately $6,000. That is your money to use towards education. So if you currently have student loans, you can use that towards your loans, or you can use that for future education expense like graduate school. And speaking of graduate school, if you want to go to the next slide, City Year partners with over 120 universities, which is really awesome. They are both undergrad and graduate schools, and they offer you an array of benefits. So this ranges from free application or deferral for a year all the way up to 100% of tuition covered for these universities. We have over $3 million in exclusive scholarship for City Year alumni at these universities. So it's a really great opportunity if you are looking for graduate school or undergrad beyond City Year. So, you know, I could go on about these financial benefits that you receive, but most importantly, your year at City Year just speaks so much volume to your students and your community, and really speaks volumes to just who you are as a leader. If you don't know what career you would like in the future, City Year could just be a really great option for you to reflect and give time to your community, and possibly may instill a passion that you didn't know you had, which is definitely the case for myself. But if you do know what career you want for your future, I promise you that City Year fits into that professional development. So this slide just shows a great example about how our alumni go into a wide range of careers. You know, government, nonprofit, education. So there is a lot, and 50% of our City Year alumni are the people who staff City Year, which is pretty cool. So I hope some of you are starting to think of, you know, how do I apply and how do I get involved? So how you apply, you would go to cityyear.org. I encourage you to check out the website anyway. It's a great website. There are tons of information and articles and videos that you can explore. But in the top right corner, there is the button that is the apply link. You can either apply to one location, you can apply to a region, or you can just say like, hey, wherever you need me, I'm ready to serve in that community, which can be a really great option. So the application is super straightforward, takes about an hour. There's a spot where you can upload your resume, or if you do not have a resume, you can just input your information right into like fill in the blank type boxes. There is 2 short answers and 2 essay questions. And when I say essay, I mean like 10 to 12 sentences. You know, we're not looking for a 3-page paper. And then also a professional reference contact information. So we will go ahead and contact that reference, and they'll fill out like a 10-minute form just on your behalf. So like I said, you can apply to either like one location, region, or a high need, or where you are most needed. As you see in this map, we are in 29 locations across the US. Buffalo is our most recent and our newest location. But yes, we are all across the US supporting 226,000 students, and we are just growing. After you apply, these are the application deadlines. So our most recent is January 22nd. But after that, we have more deadlines in spring. Applying early really just gives you the chance to have an easier transition into City Year, figure out housing, talk to other core members, connect, think about your future. So I always encourage everybody to apply earlier rather than later. After you apply, you will be contacted for an interview, given the decision. And if you are not finding this information in your email, please make sure you're checking your spam emails. Sometimes they end up there. If you could go to the next slide, Dylan. Thank you. So interview would come next, and then we would check in with your professional reference. And like I said, if you are not seeing any emails, like follow-up emails after you apply, please check your spam folder.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. So looks like it's time for the panel. So I believe Justin Connolly is going to be facilitating us. And yeah, let's get started with that.
Yeah. So thank you guys again for coming. I'm excited to get these questions out here, just so you guys can hear a little bit about what it's like to serve now, what it's like to be alumni, and what the recruitment process or the admissions process looks like. So I'll start off with a pretty basic question. You guys can feel free to unmute yourselves. Our panel can feel free to unmute yourself and answer as you see fit, pop when you're hot, as we like to call it. So yeah, I'll start off with the simple. What's your favorite part about being an AmeriCorps alumni, recruiter, currently serving, whatever your position is? What's your favorite part about that?
Oh, I can hop in on that one. I have a really quick answer. My favorite part of it is absolutely the community. So I, for a reminder, am currently serving in my second year. So I'm serving as a team leader. And the community that we've been able to build among the Corps, despite like this, I'm talking about 120 some people in the Corps in Milwaukee that have never met each other in person. I've never met my team in person that I lead every day, but like the way we have each other's backs. I just got off a call, something we call community meetings, where one of our schools told us about their service, and they did it in this really cute like Christmas play theme. And just like the fact that I can laugh and like have so much fun with these people that, again, I've never met in person, but like we're making it happen, and I really appreciate the community at City Year.
I can jump in next. As an alum as well, going through grad school and now in my first like post grad school job, I think something that resonates is the culture. There's so many different sites that City Year is working in, but there's one consistent culture across every single site. And when you meet people from other City Year chapters, whether it's like Kansas City, where I'm from, or let's say Texas or California, there's so many different things that you could connect and talk about, whether it's like the power greetings or any other protocols that you use to motivate your students in the classroom. Like, it's really cool to hear about what each different chapter or community developed to make their own City Year experience unique to the community that they were serving, but then also how that informs who they become in the role that we're currently serving in. So definitely the culture is something that resonates.
So yeah, personally, I'm going to have to check mark what both of them said. Definitely the community that's built within the team, within the Corps, and then the culture definitely kept me going. But now sitting here as a recruiter after I served for a year, definitely just being able to talk to you guys and like being inspired by how much you want to help out or how willing you are to give yourself up for your service definitely gives me a little bit of hope right now, in the world. So definitely thankful for that.
Thank you guys for answering. I appreciate that. So I'll move into a little bit talking about what the experience was like going through the admissions process. I know that's kind of why we're all here. So I'll just go ahead and ask, what was your experience like going through the admissions process, and like what are some tips and tricks that you could give to other people looking to apply to City Year?
I can start with that one. So for me, I waited until some of the later dates to apply to City Year during my recruiting year, just because I thought I had some things originally planned and mapped out. But as we all know, life happens. Like we're living in the biggest situation where that motto falls true. So like for me, I had pulse checked a recruiter early on in the recruiting season for jobs and everything, and I had an opportunity that came and went, and I rechecked in with my City Year recruiter and said, hey, I'm still interested in this position, even though I let you know that I actually wasn't a few months ago. What's the application process like? Am I still able to apply? And just really having a good relationship with the recruiter for the Kansas City office really helped me navigate that the application process and turn in my application really fast and hear back from the City Year chapter as soon as possible, just because time was closing. And like I said, it was one of the last application windows that you can apply. So building that relationship with your recruiter on really early is helpful, because they can help you navigate the ups and downs of your life, especially as a college graduate or even as a high schooler who's getting ready to graduate, because we all know everybody has different life circumstances and you can never really plan too much for the future. So just form those relationships now and use them to your advantage.
Yeah, I had a very like contrasting experience with my admission, so that's perfect. But first, I wanted to just like let y'all into a piece of like that City Year culture that I and Allie were talking about. If y'all see me doing this, this is sign language for applause. So if somebody is saying something that you're like agreeing with, you can silently like do this to just affirm what they're saying or be like, me too. So if you see me doing that, that's what I'm doing. I just needed y'all to know that little piece of CY culture. But my admissions process was, again, kind of the opposite. I was one of the first admission cycle. I believe I was the first admission cycle my year. Yep. Julie's nodding. I was one of the only people from that admission cycle that ended up serving at my site. And what was similar though to Lewis's story was that I was super tight with my recruiter. I asked a million questions actually before I started talking to Julie and Erica, our team here in Milwaukee. I was talking to recruiters in Boston because that's where I was. I had like 1,000,001 questions. I liked to be in every single no. And so that would be my suggestion. Like any question you have, there's somebody who's willing and able to answer that question. And like if your recruiter can't answer the question directly, because I know I had a lot of questions about like, okay, but 10 hours a day, like what do you do during all of that time? That's a lot of time. What fills it? You can get in contact with people like me who are currently serving. Like no matter what your question is, no matter anything, if you're coming late, if you're super, super early, if you already have had this question answered, like reach out. People want to do anything that you need. Like people have the answers that you need. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, definitely just a quick follow-up. Thank you, Al and Louis. So as a recruiter, it is our job to kind of coach you through the application process. I think not a lot of jobs, you have somebody who's kind of on your side helping you get into the program. So definitely utilize your recruiter, set up a time for them, time with them to chat, answer any questions. And then, we do these events pretty often. This is a good opportunity to get your questions answered and, hear from currently serving Corps members and stuff like that. And then in general, applying earlier tends to be better because our sites do fill up by the end of the school year. We can only accept so many Corps members. So typically applying earlier is better than applying later. We have about 6 deadlines throughout the year. We have 3 more left. January 22nd is going to be our next one, but actually if you apply by January 3rd, you will have a decision from us by January 22nd. So it's just kind of kickstarts your application process a little bit quicker. You'll have more time to prepare for that transition into service, whether it's finding housing, finding roommates, stuff like that. It's a really good opportunity to kind of get yourself set up and ready for a successful service year.
Cool. Thank you guys so much. So the next question I'm going to ask is about you guys' service. A little bit more about your service. I know City Year, we're very big about culture and we're very big about relationship building. And so I wanted our audience to hear a little bit about that. So I was going to ask you guys, what was your relationship like with your students while you were serving? What are some things that you can tell us about, the relationships that you build with your community and the students?
I can hop in there real quick. Just I served a few years ago. Like I said, I was in a third grade classroom. It was like the most amazing year. I loved my students. They were pretty, fun, pretty wild. I would do quick little 30 to 45-minute lesson plans with them, give them some candy, learn a Fortnite or TikTok dance, and bring them back to class. So it was really just kind of not like running around the school with these kids, but like I was definitely having just as much fun as they were. I'm still connected to some of my students, still connected with some of the parents. It was a very amazing year in terms of like relationships built with the students, and that's really what drove me and kept me motivated to go back each and every day for those long 10 hours like Elle mentioned. They really keep you energized.
Yeah. Again, I kind of had the opposite almost end of the spectrum. I had eighth graders. We served third through ninth grade. So again, for context, I had eighth graders last year, and especially if you have middle schoolers, y'all, or high schoolers, those kids will push you, like they will test you, but also like I know that there would be days, I mean, I should say this first. I feel like it goes without saying. I'm wearing a red jacket. I loved my students. My students and I were super tight. But I feel like there were days where I would be like frustrated with them not making the best decisions or whatnot. But if anybody else said like, oh, why would he do that? I'd be like, don't talk about my student that way. Like you get like this like sibling relationship with them almost. So you're like, these are my people and like I have their back. I'm allowed to push them and call them out when they are not making the best decisions, but nobody else gets to. Like those are my babies. Yeah, so I think your students will test you and you will test them back and everybody will be stronger for it in the end is kind of the summary of the relationship with students, I believe.
That's great. I also worked with older students. So I worked in a high school environment with ninth and 10th graders. I was a English tutor, and I helped do the event planning for my City Year core team. And so I was really engaged with the students in trying to figure out what things they would want to do, how they would want to be rewarded for behavioral achievements or academic achievements. But I think one thing that stands out about my relationships with my students is, as an alum, how much the student engagement taught me about life instead of me trying to help the students navigate English or their everyday troubles. Like there's so much that you can learn from just engaging with high schoolers, middle schoolers, or even elementary school students in your day-to-day one-on-ones, your circles that you're working with, because they're often living through experiences that you've never had or will not have the opportunity to learn from. And so for me, I've been working in the public policy space, and my interactions with my students have really informed how I understand education or healthcare or housing. There's so many different things that you can take from your students into your post City Year life, and it really strengthens your appreciation for the service here. So I would say just being as open as possible to what the students have to offer you in the daily service is something that can enrich your life beyond the 1 or 2 or 3 years of your service. So that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you guys so much. I know we're coming up on the 5:30 time, so I just wanted to give the opportunity for anybody that has to go. If you need to go, go ahead and go. But we are gonna, keep going. And at this point, we're gonna open it up for anybody else to ask questions as you would like. You can either type them into the chat and we'll read them out loud, or you can go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask the group. But I did want to make sure that we know if you need to go, you can go ahead and go. We are going to keep going.
There's a few questions in the chat that I could probably just run through really quick if that's cool. Does that?
Yeah.
Cool. So as somebody who's gravitated towards English and literature over math, if chosen, are you able to choose which subjects you focus on? It depends on the level, it depends on the site, I believe, and also depends on the grade level that you're serving. So in my high school space, my core members do focus exclusively on a single subject. But when I was in middle school, when I was in the middle school space last year, I did both because my 8th graders were all in the same class all day. So I served those students in all of the subjects. So if you're in the high school space and you're going to be spending all of your time in one subject and you hate math, nobody's going to try to put you in a classroom that you hate. Like your IM and TL are going to work with you to put you in a classroom that will work for you. But if you're serving students that only have one classroom, you'll be tutoring them in both. Work hours, 10 hours a day, Monday to Friday. Yes. Sometimes I think that there's an expectation that sometimes there might be things on the weekends. I remember that from my recruitment, but I might just be wrong. Am I?
Go ahead.
Yeah, typically, if there's going to be anything on the weekend, it'll just be like a quick service project or service day situation. My year, we had maybe 2 of those, and I believe you only had to go to 1. So I think it does differ maybe site by site, but right now with virtual service and everything, there's definitely no work on the weekends. Or I don't, I can't speak to that actually. But yeah, so when we're in person, there's sometimes service events on the weekend where we go into the neighborhood, clean up blight. I made like lunches for students one day. We did like, stuff like that. We worked in a community garden. So yeah.
And I've never had required work on the weekends, but I would go to like my students' basketball games and such last year when that was still safe on the weekends. Definitely not required by any amount, but they happened on Saturdays, so that's when I was there.
Yeah, I wouldn't jump in and say from my experience, a lot of us spent a lot of extra time, whether it was approved by City Year, to help lead the sports organizations and be like a assistant coach for things, or help do some of the other extracurriculars that required time on the weekend. But usually that was already negotiated with your team leadership to figure out whether that would actually count towards your service hours or if it was something that you would be doing on your own time.
Yeah.
I wanted to, I know we saw a question over here talk about the virtual space. I wanted to just open it up for that. What can the current core members tell us about what the virtual space kind of looks like? And is it entirely virtual? What you guys are kind of working on within that space?
Yeah, that's a tough question. But yes, it is entirely virtual for Milwaukee, at least. MPS, Milwaukee Public Schools, has been closed since mid-March. I think that, in all honesty, virtual service looks very different for different teams, for different core members, for different students, for different teachers. What I continuously say is that creativity is the name of the game in virtual service. You gotta be like, what works for, I know that we have some core members who are like making math TikToks and like really going hard into the social media avenue, and that's incredible and it works for them. And then we have some core members who like maybe TikTok is not their language, so I have a core member who like bought a little whiteboard and like does math out for her students on video, like in the virtual classroom. I know my core members are holding virtual City Year rooms where like the students can just come in and hang out during lunchtime. So like we're all just out here being as creative as possible. It looks a lot of different ways. And it looks like trying different things and seeing what works and trying and seeing what allows you to build relationships with students.
I'd also just like to mention that, we really are looking to get back into schools as soon as it's safe as possible. We keep our core member safety as our top priority. But hopefully, by next year we can be in person. And, that being said, after this year, there's a terrible amount of loss of learning within these schools and communities. So something like City Year is going to be more necessary than ever for these students to kind of get back on track and really just kind of, overcome everything that's going on right now. So I think it could be a really cool opportunity, like a really impactful year in terms of service years once we finally get back there. Thank you, guys.
Oh, sorry. Elle, do you mind just expanding on the question from Amy about, are you the only person leading the group of students, and like what the training looks like for kind of that progression of getting more comfortable with leading sessions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't want to assume that your question, Amy, comes from a place of like being worried that you would be the only person, because you might also be excited, like that might be what you're looking for. But if you're worried, don't be. Like, we would never put you in a situation without you feeling confident that you can do it. Like, there is a full month of training that's just training first, where you get all the skills that you need to do all the parts of your job. And then as to like if you are ever the only person leading a group of students, more or less no, especially not in the virtual space. You are never going to be alone with students. That's part of our legal restrictions on the virtual space right now. And in the school building, which hopefully, again, we would be back to by the time y'all were serving, in the school building, you would never be the one leading a classroom. So you always have to have a staff member of the school in your room with you, and you are not a substitute teacher. So you would not ever be performing substitute teacher duties, and you would always have, at the very least, a paraprofessional or a teaching assistant in the classroom, but generally your partner teacher would be there. The time that you would have the opportunity to lead students primarily alone would be in sessions in the school building. So those are kind of like the tutoring. That's the tutoring aspect of City Year. And that would be with groups of 3 to 6, depending on how your school day is set up generally. And you would bring those students out of the classroom, bring them to the City Year room, and run sessions, which are like small little teaching courses in either ELA, which is English Language Arts, or math. So those would be primarily skill-based, as opposed to like teaching them specific like parts of language. It would be more like teaching them how to read more fluently, so more skills rather than like concrete knowledge. But yeah, that would be the time that you'd be presenting alone to students, but you'd still be in your City Year room. So most often your TL or IM or other teammates would also be around. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just didn't want to assume. Some people also are like, I want to teach. So you are not leading a classroom.
Would you mind speaking a little bit about what do you do during like your free time in the virtual sense? I know that's a kind of a pressing question for some people.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm not a first year core member this year, so I don't have my own classroom. So my days do look pretty significantly different than the first year core members. So I can describe my day, but I'm going to start by describing my team members' day, because I think that might be the question that you're actually interested in. My team does not serve 10 hours a day. Oh my goodness. Nobody should stare at a computer for 10 hours. That would be not fun. My team, we first circle, which is like a little meeting that we do every single morning here at City Year, at 7:15. So that's like the start of our day. Sorry, not 7:15, 7:45. We first circle. We are together in that first circle until 8, at which point my team goes into their classrooms. They have 4 classes virtually, each of which are like about an hour long, which goes until noon when they have their lunchtime. And then they either have an hour off for lunch, or once a week they are expected to be manning the virtual City Year room, which is, again, just like a more casual tutoring / playing games and relationship building with the students. And then in the afternoon, they have about 2 hours of afternoon time because their lunch ends at 1 o'clock. And we final circle at 3 o'clock. So they have 2 hours-ish of afternoon time, and during that time, they are taking prep time, so working on longer term projects, and attending/hosting office hours for the students. So this is the time when they are trying to get in contact with students, trying to help students get their work done, meeting with their partner teachers, meeting with me. We have a team meeting once a week. So that's their schedule, 4 days a week. And then 1 day a week, we have a full core day in which we do like some training, some community building stuff. Yeah, so it's definitely not 10 hours. I think my team is working about 7.5 hours, including lunch a day right now. It varies a little bit depending on team, but.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering that. I wanted to give some time and space to talk a little bit about life after City Year. So I wanted to ask a little bit about how did you leverage specifically for Luis? I want to make sure I pronounce that correctly. Did I pronounce it correctly? Luis?
It's okay. I go by Louis or Louis. Either or. Any name's fine. I get the gamut. I've gotten Lois many times, so.
But I wanted to address this to you. How did you leverage your time in City Year towards your professional career? So I know you're out in the big world. So how did you leverage your time with us into that space?
Yeah, of course. So for me, I only did 1 year of City Year service, and I knew I had wanted to go to grad school to do public policy based on my prior studies in undergrad. So I kind of like did everything I possibly could to make the most of my City Year experience. I was on my site's core council. I helped do the Martin Luther King Day of Service for our site and helped lead some of the other initiatives that our site put on. And doing that helped me create relationships that I needed to have like a internship between my City Year experience and going to grad school, but it also helped me speak to my City Year experience in writing my grad school applications. And so for those students that are looking to do City Year as a gap year before going to undergrad, this would be something that would also really strengthen your application to any undergraduate institution across the United States, as well as any graduate program across the United States. So that was the first thing that I did in leveraging my City Year experience, was just really talk about my experience in the classroom and how the lessons I learned from my students in the community that I served made me want to further my education. But then for this post graduate school job, I was just really leveraging my network of alumni connections that I made in my graduate program, my undergraduate program, and City Year to really drive my job search, especially for looking for a job during the pandemic. So as I was interviewing different places, I still included my City Year experience on my resume, and that was super helpful in the job that I'm currently in, because one of my interviewers, she worked for City Year. I can't remember. I think City Year, some site in Florida. But then she was also a TFA alum as well. And I had a summer internship with TFA between my City Year experience and grad school. So those two connections really helped me form a relationship with her during my interview and talk about the experience that I had as a core member, planning events, working with the community to feel out different things that we can do for our students and finding different resources that we can bring into the classroom. And I think because of my City Year experience, she was really able to say, like, we value the same things. We can bring a lot of the same competencies to the work that we're doing with our state and local government clients, because I work in state and local government consulting now. So I think including that experience and all the different things I was able to do during City Year really helped me get a foot in the door with this job um, after graduate school. So I'd say there's definitely many ways that you can leverage the experience, whether it's for school or for a job.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Julie, did you want to take some time to? Oh, it's not. I was going to give you some time to address that to the whole group. I know that that's something that everybody might have a concern about. Also, read it.
Honestly, could I just chime in on that too a little bit? Just like that's just a very real thing that Emily put in as a very great question. That when you're moving, when you're doing this is like your first real thing that a lot of you have been in school for a while. A lot of you are young, maybe getting out of high school. And it's your first big move. And I remember when I moved from Michigan to Dallas to do this program, and it was intense, right? Like finding my own apartment, finding my roommates who were serving in City Year, getting all those affairs in order felt really difficult to do from across the country. But you'd have to do that if you started any other job, right? So that kind of challenge would come to you no matter what. But what's beautiful about this setup is that once you get there, you're already going to have a family. You're already going to have people there that you trust and know and who are there to support you, guide you through, and back you up if something goes down, right? That's what City Year is. So that's why I think a year of service truly is a beautiful thing when you're a young person moving on to the next step in life, that we're a transition period where you get to grow, become a better person, become a better professional, but all with our support and guidance. So Emily, when you get to Chicago, your City Year, your service year advisor will help guide you in figuring out where to live, what and who to rely on, and and how to figure out that process. And then once you're there, you won't know anyone in Chicago when you start, but within the first week of service, you're gonna have a whole host of new friends to get into it. And I know all of us are pretty much alums at two of AmeriCorps in general. And we can speak to that.
Thank you, Dylan. To answer Mary, to answer your question, do the City Year scholarships also cover some tuition for middle schools, or is it only for undergrad and grad school programs? Yes, we have several different med schools that also we have a partnership with. So it is just according to, we have a whole website that you can look at with all of the different partnerships that we have. But yes, they also cover medical school tuition as well.
I can jump in there too. The website that City Year has for the school partnerships, whether it's graduate programs or undergraduate programs, is really comprehensive and well done. And it's something that I leveraged really very strongly in my graduate application planning. And it really allowed me to strengthen how I tackled my applications. I applied to about 15 schools and I got into 10 of them. And I want to say 9 of the 10 were City Year partners. And it really helped me think about the finances of going back to school after my City Year experience. And I know that for my other alumni site members from the City Year Kansas City site, that also helped them a lot too, whether they were applying for Masters of Social Work programs or even going to get their MD. It's a very comprehensive site and could offer you a lot of knowledge, and your site directors and team members will also help you navigate their resources, because we all have our own alumni networks from City Year that are tried and true and could help you get to your next step.
And I'll just hop in to add to that point of it. So I also am going back to school after my 2 years with City Year. And I too applied. I only applied to 3 school programs because I didn't want to go through that whole process, but all of them had partnerships with City Year. But to the final point of we also give specific professional development throughout the year aimed at, we call it LACY, which is either life or leadership after City Year, depending on the vibe you're going for. And so there will be people that are helping you network if you're looking for jobs and in whatever field it is that you're looking for. There will be people that are helping you write applications, whether that's for undergraduate, graduate, or other programs like med school or even law school. There will be people who are helping you write resumes, helping you put City Year on your resume phenomenally. We have sessions and spaces specifically to help guide you through this process. And the leadership on your team will be checking in and being like, what are your Lacey plans? Like, how can I support you in them? Like, who can I connect you with? Those are conversations that I'm having like on a weekly basis right now. So I'm very familiar with them. You won't at all be alone in this, regardless of what your Lacey plans are, and regardless of if you know what they are. Because if you don't, there's also a whole space made for that in terms of helping you figure out what you want to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, well, we are coming up on time. I say we have one more question. Do we have any online positions or any positions that are spring or summer only? Um, I don't believe so. If anybody else wants to kind of jump in, I'm not sure if we have internships or anything like that. Do we?
Yeah, I could definitely speak to that. So unfortunately, we don't offer internships per se or just positions over the summer. Sometimes we do offer what we call a mid-year role that either begins in November or January and then goes until May. So it's half of a term pretty much, primarily thinking about like December graduates in that scenario, but there are other opportunities to do AmeriCorps over the summer and have some ability to gain like partial education awards. But yeah, this is kind of the idea of doing this post-graduation or a full gap year within your college career as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Julie. Well, with that, I think we're going to go ahead and close things out. I do want to let you guys know there will be a recruiter that will be reaching out to you. Please do reach back out to them, set up a one-on-one. If you have any more questions, that's what we're here for. We love talking to you guys. So please, please, please set up a one-on-one with us. We want to talk to you. We want you to be a part of City Year. And thank you guys so much for coming. If you guys have any more questions, like I said, reach out to your specific recruiter when they contact you. And with that, I think that's all we have. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. You all rock.
Thanks,
you
guys.
Thanks,
Thank you for
everyone.
coming.
Have a good one, y'all.
Have a-
Happy
you.
holidays and good luck applying.
Yeah.